Hello everybody and welcome to another exciting Art Snacks unboxing video. You'll notice that this is a little less put together than it normally is. Usually when I get the Art Snacks box, my mom and I just take a little peek inside, daintily look at everything, and then when I unbox it on the channel, I pretend that it's the first time I'm opening it up. But we had you might even be able to see from here, it was actually coming apart when we got it, so we did open it from this side to make sure that everything was actually in the box, which I'll just fold it open now. And I did get confirmation everything is still there. Nothing has just fallen out in the, I don't know, bear attack that everything seems to have survived. Though I think the treat is missing. I think that maybe a raccoon got to my box and it stole my treat. The little bastard. I'm now bereft of a treat. But I have all of my supplies, and that is what's important. If I was missing any supplies, then I'd be a little bit grouchy. And this is actually a pretty small assortment this month. So let's see what we got. This first item, this is the Sennelier ink brush pen. So I might have used one of these in a video before, something very similar, something actually more like this here, or basically this is a pen that just has a reservoir already filled with, in this case it's ink, and for this right here you would actually fill this with water, and then rather than having to dip your brush in some water, you just have it already in this reservoir and you can squeeze it out. This looks like it's going to be basically the same thing but with ink. So this is going to be very interesting to experiment with. And of course we have the Faber-Castell Deluxe Water Brush, which I have a couple of brushes kind of like this, and this is a really convenient thing to have when you're bringing your art supplies with you. If you're gonna go out and do some watercoloring just out in the world and you want to have something more convenient than, say, a whole cup of water that you have to deal with, just bringing these refillable water pens is super helpful. And then last we have two Marabou Graphics Aqua inks. And this one, I believe, is black. Does it say? It looks black. Let's actually get this out of the container. Oh, it's on the lid. It's right there. Okay. So yes, this one is black. And this one, watercolor ink, so it will be water soluble. So it'll work perfect with this. And then our other color is, I have green, it is mint. So that's funny because I think my mom was just saying, actually both my mom and I were saying, it seems like the assortments I get, there's always like a black pen somewhere, there's another black something or other, and then there's red. It's like black and red's been very consistent, which I like those colors, so that's perfect for me. But the green, I think, makes things a little more seasonal, a little more festive. I like that. And then finally we have our sticker. So this will be interesting to experiment with. Let's get swatching. Okay, before I start swatching, I actually want to share what I discovered about this water pen and how you load it, because it's pretty interesting. So this is one of the pens I already have. It has a very similar kind of tip, and the way you load it is you just simply pour the water in there. But this new one, this one that came in the Art Snacks box, this one's a little different because you'll see you pull, you unscrew that top, and the hole is really small, but this pulls down. So because of that, Okay, you basically just pull the water up like a syringe, so very slowly, just go like that. And then if you wanted to clean it out, you can just spray everything out like that. So that is pretty neat, and I think when we're working with the pen, we just leave this part fully extended. So that is very interesting. Alright, now let's actually do some swatching with our new pen. The first thing I want to check out is actually this one, though. So let's look at... I'm just curious how that came off. I'm assuming that's supposed to come off. I'm assuming this is something that maybe you could get refills for? I don't know. It probably says on the description, maybe. It does also say, I didn't read the description, but they do say this pen was made for, yeah, I can't read today. This pen was made for illustrators and hand letterers. So I am an aspiring, improving hand letterer. So this, I think, is just perfect. So let's see. We're just going to give it a nice little squeeze. I might need to just hold this like this for a little bit. Okay, so the black ring was supposed to come off and stay off. That was our safety ring, and I'm sure it even says, yeah, it says right there. There even are instructions. We have that off. Shake it. Oh, and then you can see we've got some ink starting to splat. All right. So this is a very nice coffee color to it. I like that. This reminds me a bit of that time I actually did do a painting with coffee. I'm just gonna paint my cat because this is a perfect color for her. I don't know if it's actually looking like her. Let's see. I'm not using the best paper for this. I am using the very last page of my sketchbook. So I thought this was a good paper to just make a mess on, but I do think I should also do a little bit of swatching on some watercolor paper because I will probably be using some actual watercolor paper for my finished piece, whatever that ends up being. I think I need to do a little more squeezy squeeze. I'm making a mess. Okay, so this is something I'm going to have to figure out a little bit more. Probably doing this over scratch paper and not directly over your piece you're working on will prevent any disasters from occurring. Especially since I don't know what I'm actually trying to make here other than a coffee looking mess. This is a very abstract interpretation of my cat. Alright, so let's take a look at this ink. Actually, I'm going to recap it and I'm going to shake it up. I'm going to get better at using this kind of ink for things like comics, doing shading. Alright, now we are thoroughly be-shook. I'm going to put this over here. I have my ink sitting in something, so in the event that they do tip over, it's not a complete disaster. So, we have this thing filled up. I'm going to do a little squeeze. It's just water, so it's not terrible if I just dribble onto the rag. Alright. Now, give a dip into my ink. Let's see, maybe it needs to be a little wetter. It's coming out very feathery. That might just be... Let's get a little more ink, because that could just be me. There we go. I like that when you can get deliberate featheriness. Let's actually scoot my paper so you can see better. Let's see, how well does it work with the other ink? I think these two colors work together really well. It'll be interesting how the green comes into play here. Oh. And then when you want to clean these, really you can just wipe that off. I haven't actually used this type of pen for ink before. I usually just use it for watercolor. So it could be there's just a little bit of a learning curve there. I could probably just swish this in some water. Though honestly, I want to test this out. I want to use one of these paintbrushes instead. Okay, so I've got this pen a little... Not pen, brush. Can you tell I haven't had my coffee yet today? Got my brush a little more wet. I am going to bust out the green ink. I'm just going to see how this works when I'm using just a regular brush, because I think I'm having a little bit of a learning curve with using the actual water-loaded brush. Let's see. This, I think, is a brush I got out of an Art Snacks box, I'm pretty sure. It's a nice goblin-y green color. So this is an interesting color scheme we have here. We've got the black and the brown. And then we've got this nice minty green color. All right, let's actually jump back to using this. Let's see. Okay, yeah, that looks a lot less feathery. This might be just a I'm figuring this out sort of thing. Or maybe I just didn't have enough water in my brush before. Yeah, this feels like it's I just have more lubrication, for lack of a better word. Yeah, I'm liking that a lot more. I think I just needed to get the brush wetter. But now our question is, what kind of art piece am I going to make with my two kinds of ink colors and the brushes? Let's find out. Okay, I did a little bit more experimentation, and I am definitely getting the hang of the pen a lot more. It really is just that the brush wasn't wet enough, so that's why it was coming out a little feathery. Once it was a lot more wet, you can see that my lines got a lot more smooth, and you actually can get some pretty nice fine lines if you control your brush's strokes well enough. You can also see that there was a little bit of dripping. You gotta be careful not to accidentally start pushing this in while you're working, because it starts dripping and it just keeps going. But you can kind of see, and I also did some sketchy stuff on some actual watercolor paper, the type that I'm planning on using for my finished piece, and you can see that I have my plan worked out. We are going to be painting Krampus because he is very seasonal. So I'm going to do just like a little illustration this time. I'm going to be using this piece of watercolor paper from a pad I just recently got. So let's get making art. All right, I think we have got our Krampus sketch, and what I think I am going to do, I've been kind of debating on what order I want to do all our ink in, because I've got 3 different colors. We've got the brown, we've got the black, and then we have the green. And I might do a little test run to see how this works out, but I think I'm going to start with the brown, because I think that's kind of the base color that I want to give him. And then I can add a little bit of green here and there, and I'm just going to use the black for the finishing touches. It might look cool to do a black background. I do have an idea for a little bit of a border that I'm going to do on this, but I think the plan is I'm going to go in with the brown, then green, then black. Alright, so we have our brown, we have our green, and now I'm kind of having a debate here because I want to go in and add a little more details in black. I'm also thinking I want to do a solid black background, and hopefully that'll look good. I'm kind of thinking that I'm going to do the background first, and then I'll go in with the details. Okay, yeah, I think that's what I'm gonna do. Alright, I think our boy Krampus is finished. I really like how this turned out. Usually, I like to use my little thin fine liners to finish things off, but I think this looks really good on its own. This right here worked pretty well for the smaller details. I think it still would look even cooler if I added some fine liner stuff, but I want to just have this only be this stuff in the box, because you know, if you've watched a few of these episodes, you know that I sometimes cheat a bit. I'll add some specific liners in if I need a specific pen, or I'll add some white highlights, but everything in this box worked really well just on its own. I like how this turned out. I think, actually, did I use this pencil, or I think I used a regular number 2 pencil. I was gonna say, I think the mechanical pencil I have is something that came out of an Art Snacks box. But I like how our boy Krampus turned out. I was kind of considering throw a little festive washi tape on the borders as a joke, but I think he just looks too good on his own. I like it's got that Francisco Goya, Saturn devouring his sons kind of energy that I actually want to I want to keep that, though at the same time, just to test it out, we like get a little festive sparkles on the border. Oh man, the temptation is very strong. The washi tape will come off really easily. Like, see, I can just stick that on there, and then if you wanted to do washi tape stuff, you can just like very lightly cut things out, and yeah, it comes off very easily. So the temptation is there, but you know what? I think I'm just going to leave this as is. I'm happy with how this turned out. I hope you enjoyed watching me share our art snacks for the month of December. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you have a wonderful time making art.